Okay, guys, we're live. Ani, we're live.
Hello, how are you?
Okay. So, hi and welcome, all of you. Thank you for being here with us at aidbees. Really great to have you guys here. I'm Zama. Please address me as Zama. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little introduction of all of you, uh, with a little bit about your work. So, who wants to go first? Let me ask that because you guys are not talking at all. So let's start with Aryan. Aryan, let's hear from you.
All right, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Aryan. I currently am a student in the Sri Ram School at Ravli, and I'm in 12th grade right now. And I started this social initiative called Can You Support in when I was in ninth grade. So it really started out simply because I wanted to help people or children specifically who did not have obviously the funds to attend a proper school. From that, I wanted to grow it on a larger scale to reach out to more people. So I formed kind of an organization, if you could call it. So what Can You Support? I mean, Can You Support is really very similar to what 8Bs does. It's basically bridges the gap
Aidbees is
between.
trying to do, yes.
Yes. So my whole concept was to have a direct contact with the NGOs and the donators to make donations more easier and efficient. So that's what Can You Support was revolved. I mean, that's how it originated. So yeah, that's about me.
Great. That's so good to have you. And yes, I realized that after reading your thing, how similar our thought process is.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, it
really,
really was very similar.
yeah. So I hope you will continue supporting us and
Yeah,
being part of
absolutely.
8Ps and bringing your work forward, because that's essentially what we're trying to do here is to make sure that young people at your really young age do get in on this platform and try and inspire other younger people and older people on how much they can do with very little or nothing at all in their pockets, because
Right.
it really doesn't need much. Let's go to a similar thought with Tanushri. Tanushri, let's hear from you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tanushree Kumar. I'm in 10th standard. Well, now technically over, but I'm from JV Petter from Mumbai. And I was first introduced with charity and all by my mom when I think it was my seventh birthday, and she took me on my birthday. She took me to a cancer institute, and I spent my entire birthday there. And we were just eating there, and we were like cutting the cake there, and the way everyone was so happy, and the way that all the smiles I saw on their faces just made me feel really good. So when I was in eighth or when I was in ninth, one of my friend Maisha, we got this idea of, well, it started off as something called Shelps, which is like she helps, he helps Shelps. And we started thinking about it started as an Instagram account, and we were posting stories of people. It was my maid, it was like people who used to do a lot of charity work. And we just started talking about them. And soon my dad like kind of like worked on that topic, which is now called aidbees. So I'm really glad to make it something so big, and yeah, I'm proud.
Thank you, Tanushri. Molly, can we hear from you?
So I actually was really inspired by my grandmother and as well as my mother. So they both served in MCD, the speech and government schools. So seeing them work with children, I also visited as a child. Then I started teaching at home to my house help and people working around the house like press walas and doodh walas, their children, etc. So it all began from there. And then in at Lotus Valley, Gurgaon, which was my school, I we started a small program which was basically to teach construction workers that were building our school, and as well as their children, because they were not going to school. So we started there. Then I also have done multiple projects at my university, which is at the University of Hong Kong. So I was associated with equal opportunity unit, which basically works to spread awareness amongst university students. So especially like as an international student. So I was really inspired by the work that they're doing, because knowing sexual harassment laws, disability laws, etc., in a completely new country and a new environment for me was really important. Um, and very useful. So I, of course, worked there and worked in their PR, spreading awareness, doing multiple campaigns for them. I've also taught to English to refugees, as well as currently I'm associated with this NGO called Samagra, which basically focuses on teaching uh, children from economically weaker sections studying in mainstream schools, because to bridge the gap, that obvious gap that there exists. So currently I'm teaching grade 6 children who are studying at Mothers International School. So yes, that's all about me, and I'm an engineer and also working on my startup right now. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you.
Costa,
Hi everyone. So I've always had an interest in development, and as a child, I was often taken by my elders, primarily my bua in Shimla, who's very active in the development space over there. So I'd visit asylums there. I'd visit patients in sickness wards. I'd visit children with mental disabilities, and I'd spend a lot of my summer there. As I grew older, I watched my mother start precisely this construction worker teaching program in Lotus Valley when it was being formed. So she was the one kind of bringing all these kids together, and I'd help her out with that. And then even in school, there was this program called the Teach for India program, where we were teaching English to the security staff and the cleaning staff at Lotus Valley. And then also in college, there was this program called the NEEV program, where I was essentially teaching children from the local village of Asawarpur. I was teaching them English and storytelling and helping them just increase their confidence and their curiosity about the world through stories, both fictional and non-fictional, helping them also tie that into some of the things they were learning in other subjects like math and science. So this became something that was a little lighter for them, designed more to just help them feel free. And it was a range of children, ranging from a child who was about 6 years old to someone who was 15. Um, but my passion for development really started when I stepped out of college. Prior to that, I always wanted to work in entertainment or journalism. It was only after that that I realized I actually want to really get my hands dirty and work in development, because it's something that really struck me right after college, is that I have desires, but it is my duty to work in development. And until I'll fulfill that, I don't feel comfortable doing things that are slightly less tied to development, slightly less impactful on ground. So I first interned with the National Skill Development Corporation, post which I've spent the last year with the UN. So first with the UN Environment Program, and now I'm working with the United Nations Development Program on sustainable finance, essentially mobilizing capital for the SDGs and also supporting women social entrepreneurs in scaling up their business and accessing finance. So that's the trajectory I'm on in development, and I see myself continuing on this path.
on a similar, not same, but quite a similar path. Ananya, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Hi everyone. I hope
And you're on mute.
can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ananya. I am 25 years old. I'm from Chennai. I'm I predominantly grew up in South India, but I am from Gujarat, so I have like a mix of cultures going on. I started my journey in the development sector when I was 17 years old. I founded my first organization then. It's called Inner Goddess, and it's predominantly to increase financial literacy in women and even now non binary identities. We've worked with approximately, I think, 50,000 people now to kind of just ensure that they understand what financial literacy is, and then also understand how it's not their fault that they're not financially literate, but what they can do in order to hold the system accountable to feel financially empowered. Once I was doing that, I kind of recognized the importance of mentorship when you're working in such a sector, which is so emotionally taxing, but also kind of checks your privilege day in and day out, kind of makes you recognize that you have access to so many things, and like Kostav said, it's your duty somehow to bring the margins closer to the center. And that's when I founded my second organization called the Big Sister Program, which is basically a mentorship program built on the pillars of financial, digital, and legal literacy, specifically for girls from troubled backgrounds. So when I say troubled backgrounds, I mean children of sex workers, orphans, and even children who've kind of been termed as homeless, but actually live in government-oriented childcare institutions. And in the process of me doing that and working with so many children and so many women, I kind of recognize that sexual and reproductive health rights are incredibly important to these people in this specific sector of people. And a lot of young people are constantly battling with their identity and are constantly trying to recognize what their rights are when it comes to figuring their identity out. So I decided to kind of certify myself as a sexuality educator and taught in a couple of schools in Delhi to kind of understand how children perceive these extremely complex things that have now become buzzwords on social media, which are in fact a big reality for them, which in fact are a huge sort of battle for them. And I embedded those aspects into the programs that I run in my organizations. I am also a college dropout and feel very proud about it because I had nothing to do with my decision to attend college. But now I am pursuing my studies to be able to eventually do a master's degree in public policy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ananya. Kriti, it's yours. Party to mitti to matki. I mean, I'm so amazed with that project. You
Thank
want to
you.
talk about that and anything else?
Yes, please. So, hello everyone. I'm Kriti Malik. I'm a grade 12 student at Lotus Valley International School, Gurugram. And so I started this project called Mitti to Matka. My friend and I had gone to visit a settlement of potters one day, casually just to buy some pots for our plants. And while we were talking to some of these potters, one of them suddenly burst into tears. I can't remove that picture of her from my mind ever because it's embedded into my memory. And I'm really glad it is because that's what, really encouraged us to create this organization called Mitti to Matka. She cried and explained to us that their life is really full of hardship and misery, and they're one section of people that not that privileged people like us tend to forget, because if you have to donate, you go donate to organizations or you you give money to beggars, but people don't generally look at potters who are actually working really hard, who migrated from across the country in order to sell their pots at extremely low prices. So what we did was we collected 12 students and gave everybody their specific jobs. We mobilized resources through a lot of different projects of ours. One was called Sewing for Sculptors, where we hand stitched headbands and scrunchies because those are really trendy. So people tend to buy all of that. And we sold them. We raised about 50,000 rupees and used that to buy staples like atta, dal, rice, cooking oil, etc. Because the first visit that we had actually made to them, we gave them Parle G biscuits and masks, and they told us that hame ye nahi chahiye. This is not something that we want. We will use masks. It's something much later. We need our primary existence, our primary sustenance to be fulfilled before taking care of the greater needs. So that's when we realized that we need to support the fact that they need to sustain themselves first. So that's when we created this whole organization, and now we're on our way to create a self-help group where we'll foster financial interdependence, because initially what we noticed was they live in different settlements. So there's 10 people living in one hut and 10 people living in another, and there are 15 such huts, and all of them are competing among themselves for money. So So they already earn extremely low amounts, and still there is extreme amounts of competition among themselves, which only tends to harm them at the end of the day. So by establishing a self-help group, it'll be a collectivistic method in which they will earn. They'll be connected to a bank, so they'll withdraw money and then they'll give it back with interest, which will in fact foster further financial development among them. So they've started to recognize us, they've started to trust us, which was a very difficult task because they've lived in such difficult conditions always. And people from the authorities would come, they would come break their matkas, and they would anyways not have means to sustain themselves. So they had a difficult time trusting us, but now we're glad that they do. And we have our social media page, so we interview these people, we ask them what else they need. We had this project called we partnered up with a lot of different organizations. One of them was called Go With The Flow. So we distributed sanitary pads among all the women, which would last them about a year, we hope. So yeah, this is what we plan to do, and we hope to keep passing on our organization to younger generations so that it keeps going on and we can help these potters.
So, Kriti, have you found people to take over? Because I know you are, of course, moving on with your education. So, have you managed to find people? I hope you have.
Yes. So we have another whole generation. We've selected students, we've interviewed them, we opened applications, and so we've specifically interviewed all of these people, and we're really excited to pass it on to them because they've seen us handle it, and they're really pumped to carry it forward with some new innovative ideas of their own.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great work. So I have to say inspiring. I'm totally inspired. I know I've been in this sector professionally for almost 25 years, but for me, it's a profession. But you guys have, gone beyond that. And that's so great to see. I just want to ask you guys one thing, which often people wonder is, did it ever occur to you, "Ki, I'm just one, what difference can I make?" Did it ever, even did you ever think like that, or it didn't? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you know my question, so I want you to answer that. Any one of you, please start. Let's
Yeah.
open it out.
So I think whatever we all do, we can like just club it up into one word, that's kindness. And I think kindness is very contagious. Like, it's not that if you're the only one doing it, if someone sees you doing it, you actually inspire someone, and then it spreads. So thinking as if that I'm just one, how will it matter? But in reality, I think it really does matter, because it really spreads. And when you see other people get inspired from you, it just drives you forward to continue. And then you realize that, yes, I wasn't the only one who was doing it. I am inspiring more people. And that's how I really came to like get out of this notion that I'm the only one doing this. So yeah, that's what I had to say.
I agree. I mean, it's really important for us to recognize that even though we believe we are just one person who will make only a certain amount of difference, one, if we add all of these one people, all of us together can make a really huge impact. So by shying away thinking that we might not be able to make that much of an impact, if every one person actually does their bit, or makes an effort to give back to society, the world can completely be transformed into a much better place than it is.
Fantastic. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Please go on.
You can say.
Okay. I think to answer your question very directly, I think about this almost every day. I think it's been one of the primary reasons that I said that this job or this area can be extremely emotionally taxing, because I think in order to do what we do, we look at a lot of data, or I'll speak for myself. I read a lot of these reports, and you see all of these extremely sad human things represented as figures and bar graphs, and it can be extremely demotivating. And I would love to like appreciate what Kriti just said when she said that if everyone really does their part, the world can be transformed. But in order to just really see good quality change and to see it quickly, I think I learned that I need to also hold certain kinds of people and certain kind of systems accountable in order to actually see transformative change. And once I started figuring out that I'm not the only kind of cog in this whole big system, and that the system itself is kind of a little bit messed up, it eased the weight on my shoulders for sure, but it also made me realize that the problem is much bigger than I am. And the more people that are involved, the better it is for the problem. So I can't do it by myself, and not for a day will I accept that I can do it for myself. And if anyone wants to share strategy, I'll be more than happy to do it. And I have received advice against this because everyone wants to compete and everyone wants to be the best and win that award. But I actively disagree with that notion and mentality, because doing it by yourself is not going to work. There are so many other things at play which are not in our control, and it's important to be mindful of all of those things.
That's great. And that's so true. I mean, the networking is really important. But so what we were talking about is the fact that you alone are making a difference. And that's what we stand by, that it doesn't matter if you start small, it goes a long way. But definitely networking is so important, and especially in this field, amazingly important. Molly was trying to say something.
Yes, I was saying that I feel like the work giving uh, to this giving back to the society, it needs to start from somewhere. And if you get stuck at the thought that, okay, I'm going to wait for others to start, or other people are not doing it, what difference can only me working in this particular segment make? I think that approach is not correct, because personally I feel that even if today I'm teaching only one child, I'm at least, if I make a real difference in that child's life, that's going to mean a lot to me. Just seeing that child grow into a better person and maybe has uh, many more opportunities that he could possibly have. So I think, yeah, you should just keep doing your part, and of course spread awareness, and get your friends and whoever you can get along, and yeah, just go on this journey. So I think, yeah.
I'd like to just come in on that. It's a very similar thing, because I think the idea is
Yeah,
consistent for
Cost.
everyone. But I think the important thing that we need to start questioning is, what is this need for everyone to do it at scale? Right? This idea, like
Can you
Ananya was
say
saying
that
about,
again? Sorry, I didn't get you.
I was saying the need for any sort of initiative, for every single person doing it, for that to be at scale, isn't really necessary, right? It's inbuilt competition. It is a desire to stand in the
True.
spotlight. But like Ananya was saying, you are not going to do it alone, right? And statistically, we have to accept that not everyone is going to
True.
create
So
like a
true.
Selco, right? Which is going to make that kind of massive difference.
Yeah.
But when you have enough people making just a little
True.
bit of difference, right, it really tends to add up. And like everyone's saying, most people won't do anything at all, because they think that, what is the point? Because they're scared that, I won't be able to get it to scale. But that's the wrong thing to be looking at, right? So are you actually caring about the impact you're making, or are you caring about the numbers you're generating? Most people are caught up on the numbers. And I think that is why most people don't do anything, because even like,
No, I agree.
yeah, even ensuring that you're helping out, say, the domestic help in your house, who we tend to honestly forget about, right? It is a class of people
Yeah.
that we tend to forget. They are the bhaiyas and didis of the world, even though some of them might be, the age of our grandparents. But we'll still do that because they slip from our minds. If you just start paying attention to them, right, and everyone start just being that much more aware and that much more proactive about other people around them, you'd made a massive difference. But people getting that kind of
Yeah. And
awareness
it
requires you
happens very
to,
unconsciously. Yeah.
yeah, it just requires breaking that idea that everything you do has to be grand, because it really, really doesn't.
Yeah.
It depends on what you ascribe value to at the end of the day. But I mean, that's just my take on it. It's
So true. No, totally. I
Uh,
completely agree with what all of you are saying. Tanushri,
can I add?
sorry. Yeah, Tanushree, go ahead. I think the
Oh,
your voice is a bit wavering, but please go ahead.
okay. So firstly, I really agree with what Kaustubh said. Like what all we do, comparing it to someone who just smiled at a stranger on the road or just gave this kid a biscuit because he didn't feel that great. It's still kindness and it still makes a huge impact. And I didn't just, wake up one day in the morning and said, I want to make the world a better place. Like, it was my mom who inspired me, and it was people around me who drove me to do kindness. And similarly, there was an incident which took place where my friend and I were at McDonald's and we were eating, and we saw a bunch of homeless kids playing outside, and they were searching the trash can to find food. So my friend and I collected all the money we had and we bought a bunch of food. And there was another group of kids in the other corner who gave us all the money they had left and said, "Here, take this, buy it for them too." And I feel like the way that we were doing something for the kids showed them that, oh, even they can do something. And it became contagious. And like that small thing we did just made so much of a difference.
Yeah. No, it's so true that it does. Somebody has to make a start, and I guess you guys have really made a start. And I think that's what aidbees is here for, to kind of inspire others. And that's why we have, and we hope you guys continue with us to inspire many like you and many like me also. um, So, in all of this, I know most of you have spoken about how your parents or somebody, an elder in your family, inspired you. But apart from the family and, of course, what's happening around you, was there anything else that inspired you? I mean, not everybody has to answer. If nobody has anything, if it was just your family, it's all right. I'm just wondering what else can it be apart from the fact that, we do what we see our elders doing in the house. Is there anything else that can inspire people to follow this path?
Absolutely. I think my school had a really huge role to play in the reason why I got into community service, because our schools always encouraged us to give back to society. So I remember the first thing I ever did was the Barefoot Project in grade
Mm.
7. So from there we taught underprivileged children, where I realized that I have this, I really like teaching people. So then in, I think, 10th grade, then I started, I volunteered to teach this child in my class who suffers from severe depression. And I helped him with the curriculum. And, see, just like Molly Didi said, that, when, even if you teach one child and you see a difference, you see the difference you're making in his or her life, that really matters. So yes, my school has played a huge role, and so have the people I've interacted with. Like, I remember my domestic help, she still works with us. Once I was sitting and complaining. I was like, didi, bahut syllabus hai, bahut zyada padhna padta hai. And then she said that, you should be happy. I wish I could give my children that kind of exposure, that kind of education that you have. So that thought always stuck with me. And I you know every time I'd feel burdened by how much I had to study or how much syllabus I had left, I would always think of her and, feel grateful. And I tried to help her out as much as I could about educating her children or helping her out in any way I could. So the people you meet, the people you interact with, and the kind of exposure you gain from a really young age really helps how you, the outlook with which you really perceive how society is.
True.
I completely
Very
agree with
true.
Kriti. Like, I feel that
Molly.
you need to just like keep your eyes, mind, ears open at all times. And you meet people like strangers, probably, who will inspire you. Just how Kriti was inspired for her project that she's doing. So it's just, it could be anything. Like, you just need to have an open mind.
Yeah, open mind, definitely. Ananya, are you trying to say something? I can see it that you're trying to say something.
I'm actually trying to think back to what inspired me. I would hands down agree with Kriti, because the reason why I started my second organization was because I used to spend a lot of time around orphans. And I think just listening to them and just, interacting with them itself inspires you to want to do better and to be better. So I think this is something that Maya Angelou said a really long time ago in one of her poems. She said, if you know better, you do better. So I think for some people, the doing is very inherent, it just happens. But I think, like Molly said, keeping your ears and your eyes open and actively committing yourself to knowing more and knowing better, it just easily inspires you. I don't think it takes too much time, in that moment, at least.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Uh,
So I,
Um, I would just like to take on
yeah,
the
yeah,
school
please.
part that Kriti said. That so, I think my school also had a very huge impact on like just embedding this thought and this process of helping out others and kindness. And I would give them like a big credit for this. And I feel this is a very like a different point of view, but I think my subjects as a whole, like I'm really into science and technology, so solving things from a very technical point of view and merging it with helping out each other to increase efficiency, this concept also really inspired me to solve a common problem that I saw in society. So this problem of donating, like this inefficient way of donating things to NGOs, was a problem that I solved. And my subjects, which really teach me how to solve things from a very efficient point of view, really made me go deep into solving these problems and on the same hand helping people. So yeah, that was one thing.
It's a
uh,
I'd
Zama, if I
say.
could just,
I thought of it like that too much, but yeah, I think that's something to be considered, honestly.
Zama, I just had,
Anyone? Costa, are you trying to say?
yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, I have nothing else to
I
say in
can't
terms of
hear
what,
you.
can everyone hear me?
That's okay. Yeah, yeah, we
Uh,
can.
so I mean, I don't have an answer because what inspired me was the fact that I watched the people around me do it. I actually had a question
Correct.
for the people still
Sure.
in school, right? We're about to pass out of school. Aryan just talked about the experience of solving a problem, right? And what I see from many people is a lot of apathy. They get so overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges that we have in the development sector, right? Even look at something like climate change. It's a massive
Correct.
problem. It, even people working in the sector, it's very hard to actually understand what it is. So my thing is that at the school level, what suggestions would you have that could solve for this problem of apathy in the classroom, right? Do you have any, do you wish your school had done something different, something more to help actually create this atmosphere of problem solving amidst the students for development challenges? Because I really found what Aryan said interesting. And I think that if that culture was promoted more, you'd have a lot more people engaging in the development space. So if anyone wants to, or even Zama, if you have a perspective on this.
Does anybody want to answer that? I do have a perspective, but I would like it to, because I think pretty much people have answered it, to be very honest, but still, anybody wants to have a go at it?
Can I say something?
No? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, so in my school, like there's this class called critical theory, and it I feel like it's really, really important for my school because in like topics such as like LGBTQ rights or racial discrimination, your opinion really matters. And I know there's still people in my school who aren't comfortable with gay people, or there's still people in my school who wouldn't like to sit next to Muslims. So this critical theory class really like taught us it just like really brought out another point of view, and it just made us all think in a different way. And the way our teacher really explained it to us that, we're all human, we all born the same, we all die the same. How does this color of your skin matter or who you like matter? And I feel like that really helped me. I feel like I really wish other people also did this class because I know a lot of people in other schools, also in many boys' schools, who don't have critical theory, and they make it a huge deal if someone is gay or bisexual in their class. And there's a lot of cyberbullying and complications, and that's why I just yeah.
So true, very true. Anybody else before I say something?
I'm so sorry, I got disconnected for a minute.
No, Kriti, that's okay. Don't worry. But your voice is again fading out. Okay, till Kriti figures her connection. Okay, I'll just answer this by a very personal narrative. So my children go for a few years, and my
Can you
children
hear
studied
me
in a
now?
school which believes, no, Kriti, unfortunately, not yet. So my kids were in a school which, from literally nursery, starts the whole education of social issues, and in different manner it is. So each, of course, grade has a different level, right? So right from nursery, so my daughter joined when she was in, I think, upper kg, and my son joined when he was in grade 3, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the level. And by the time my son went into grade 6, I still remember there was this day when I was taking him and his friends to the school for something. They had to collect something. They had to collect laptops, which is how, they were to that year start working on laptops. And there was this particular day when they had to collect laptops, and all these kids were in our house. And then I was to take them across to collect those laptops. So as we're driving, I'm in the front, and these 4 boys, I think they were behind, and they're all chatting. And they're all discussing what kind of laptops they will buy, right? So they're all like having this whole conversation around, no, we're not going to pick up the ones from the school because they're going to be of this particular NGO, which we are constantly donating money. And why do we have to all the time do this? And, there's this whole conversation going on around it. It's so expensive, and it's so this, it's so that. We can from Amazon order something much better looking, better quality, more to the times, and hep with it and all of that. So the entire time this blabber going on and on. And in my heart, I'm thinking, oh my God, and here the school is trying to work so hard for it, and they're doing so much for them. But TK, I mean, these are like 12-year-old kids. I think they were 11, 12. I'm not even sure now. But yeah, fifth graders getting into sixth, and they're all yapping away. But I guess, but later when it actually came to buying stuff, believe me, none of them did it. They all did buy what they should have bought, according to me, without having been told. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe, to my mind, was that maybe by 6th, 7th grade, they got tired. There was a fatigue in doing these things on a daily basis. But in their mind, in their brains, in their soul, it is imbibed. That thing is not going to come out. And I can say this from experience, and my kids have been out of that school now for 3 years. We've moved back. My son is now approaching grade 10, daughter is approaching grade 6. And I see in the little things that they do on a daily basis that has stayed with them. Somewhere just that starting early, starting young, and as some of you said, being aware and by example, it works. And I think that's what we need to do all the time. Just show, and you don't have to bring it down on somebody's throat. You don't have to do that. Just by doing it yourself, whether it's school, whether it's you, whether it's me, but as long as we have examples around us to follow, I think people do take it on. And I mean, I hope that does answer to an extent, cost of your question. So yeah, I think it's very important to start young. And कहीं भी, whether school, घर पे, जहाँ भी, and you all are examples of this, that how you all started very young. And in terms of being magnanimous, as again you all said, that somewhere we have to begin, whether it's small, big, we have to, and then people will follow. And I can see that in your work. All of you have managed to show us that kindness is contagious. And I think that's pretty much what aidbees talks about all the time, that kindness is contagious. And for me, you guys are my heroes. I mean, you're my role models. I can literally take all of you and put up on my social media as our kindness leaders for a very, very long time. Yeah, that's for me. Anything else? Anybody, any comment?
Yeah, I would just like to add, I mean, answer a
Yeah,
part of the question that Kaustav asked, like,
yeah.
what can schools do better? Like, suppose I talked about how we can solve problems by simply teaching students how to solve problems. But what I feel like my school has done it, okay? Like, I give all credits to my school because from a very young age, we used to have circle times in which we used to talk about these things. Just
Things.
talk about perspectives, different perspectives that everyone has. If someone has a problem, we used to talk about it. If someone had an like this thing that they were doing for their maid, we talked about it. So there was a bubble that was created, and there was an environment that was created that really inspired people to do more. Now I feel there's a problem in schools in India. Our way of solving problems is very formula oriented. It's like every technical subject you have, if there's a problem, you're given a formula, and then you're said that you have 40 questions, apply this formula, you're going to get the answer. But in the real world, you can't solve any problem by just applying one formula. It really has to be embedded in you. Like certain emotions, certain skills have to be embedded in you to solve more complex problems in that or in this world. So the one thing that schools can do better is just letting people like talk and letting people inspire other people by just not academic stuff. More personal stuff actually works because circle times, they I feel really work to have this sense of empathy and sympathy for others. So that's what I feel that a lot of schools lack.
No, true. Very true.
I really agree with what Aryan says, and I really think it really applies to a lot of ICSE schools because, like every time you try to solve a certain problem, a lot of my teachers have always told me that this is not the way I experienced
Tanushree, your
what,
connection, unfortunately, we're not able to get you.
or this is not the way you get marks. Even if it's even if it's a different point of view. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better. I think you're better with the video closed, Tanushree.
Can you hear
Sorry
me right
about that.
now?
Yeah, now we can.
Oh, saying that about the problem solving, it really applies to ICC schools because a lot of them, whenever you try to solve a certain problem, I've often heard teachers tell that it's not the way ICC wants it, it's not the way you'll get marks, even if there are other ways and not their own standard, their own way.
True. Very true.
Right. Add something to what Aryan said.
Correct. Yeah. Very similar thought, I would say. So there's an interesting question from the audience. We do have some audience. And one of the interesting questions, which I was not planning, I mean, it didn't occur to me, but I'm going to bring it up. So the question is everyone deserving of kindness? What do we feel about that? Any one of you would like to take that? Costa, are you trying to say something, Costa? You're smiling
I am
or
thinking out just
laughing.
how challenging a question that is because it really comes down to whether or not you believe people are inherently good or whether or not you believe people are inherently bad and are trying to do good,
So let me
right?
put it to you. What do you feel? Are people inherently good?
Um,
I'm putting you in a spot.
yeah, this is a tough spot. As a student
No,
of
please go
history,
on.
I will say I don't think so. I think, but I also don't think it's a question of good or bad per se. It's I said it
Correct.
slightly reductively because it's easier to talk about it like that. I just think it's humankind across history has essentially just tried to survive. We have found that we survive better together than we do apart. which just lends itself to team building. But because of just studying history, I've realized that people are driven by selfish motivations, but that doesn't preclude them from having altruistic motivations either, right? It depends on the balance within a person, and that balance also really depends on your background. Sometimes kindness is a privilege. The ability to be kind to someone is also a privilege, because you might have grown up in an environment where you've been able to think of being kind to other people, where you've not struggled day in and day out to compete with the people around you, and can instead think of doing nice things for them or think of empathizing with them. And when we talk about is everyone deserving of kindness, I think everyone is deserving of respect rather than kindness, is I think the better way to put that. With respect, what happens is that you leave room for giving kindness. You also leave room for the times when some people just do things that, you can't give them kindness afterwards. What you can do is respect the fact that there might be a million factors that have led to them doing an act or making a decision. And condemning them in the moment through the legal system, but remembering the larger condemnation is for society as we've structured it. So society is deserving of kindness. Society is deserving of our time as individuals to think of how to fix it. People themselves are not always deserving of kindness, is I think how
A
I would put
second
it.
chance. I think everybody deserves a chance, and
A
then
chance, maybe
take
not
it
a
for
second
from
chance,
there.
is my view on it at least. But I think society deserves multiple chances.
Very
Is
well said.
very diplomatically put. I've tried to really get myself out of that spot. But yeah, interesting
Anyone
question. Thank you.
else wants to take
I
that
agree
question?
that's in fact a very interesting question. Does everyone deserve kindness? Now I think everybody deserves a basic level of kindness, basic human rights, if we can look at it that way. Everyone deserves like the right to live, for example. And let's say the potters. I mean, the first thought that came to my mind was the potters, because a chief complaint that they had was the authorities come, they break our pots because we are illegal residents. Now we got to thinking that it's not false that they're living where they're living without having a residence permit, or I mean, the area that they occupy isn't really theirs. So the fact that the authorities come and they mistreat them or they break their pots for being illegal residents isn't legally incorrect, but that does not mean that these potters deserve that kind of treatment from them, because they have no other alternative. So just like Kaustav said, a million reasons, a million circumstances that people are going through really determine whether or not they deserve kindness. Now, I mean, the world deserves to be treated kindly by us. But whether people like criminals, for example, they also have rights. There are rights of the accuser, criminal rights as well, right? So everybody does deserve kindness, because there's already a lot of scope for it, that is left in the world. So by believing that everyone doesn't deserve kindness, it's like saying the same thing, that if I behave with a certain person in a way that they behaved with me, what difference does that leave between me and them? So we deserve to be kind to everybody, because we deserve to have that satisfaction that we are doing everything we can to be good human beings.
So well said, Kriti. Thank you. Anybody else?
I
Molly.
completely agree with what Costin said, that the society in general, in whole, deserves the act of kindness, but there are people that I personally feel that they don't. And like what Kriti said, I feel like there are certain circumstances where you can't justify kindness to certain people. And yeah, so I completely believe in giving a second chance, giving an opportunity to correct themselves, to correct their mistakes, and then move on. But kindness, no, I agree with the statement. Like, that was a very well put and a very wholesome statement.
Nice. Anybody?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I would
Okay, I hope that answers the question in the mind Sorry, Ananya, please go ahead.
Can I go on?
Yes, yes, please.
So I think I would have never been able to put it as diplomatically as Kostav did. So kudos to you on that. You deserve a win for that. But I do agree with him for the most part. I also struggle. This is a personal struggle, and I just want to be able to share it on this platform that sometimes defining kindness itself is difficult and it can be incredibly subjective. Like one person might think that this is a very kind thing to do, while someone might think that it's not. So I think I'm so grateful and inspired by Kriti for bringing up something like human rights and comparing it to kindness, because I think it clearly proves that people deserve, everyone equitably deserves some basic stuff,
Yeah.
while kindness can be measured depending on the situation, depending on the circumstance. And I think it's, for me at least, it's like a personal sort of aim to keep rediscovering what kindness means and kindness feels like. And I think that only makes me closer to altruism and closer to my altruistic goals. I don't think I'll ever fully understand what kindness is. I don't think anyone should stop discovering that either.
Yeah, very true.
I
We
think.
can't. Yeah. I mean, kindness needs to be, and we need to evolve with it. And as I think at different levels, there is different definitions for it. And definitely, as Kriti said, that everybody deserves basic rights. There are basic rights, basic human rights, which we hope everybody does get. And yeah, but yes, Costa, kudos to you. You did get off that tight spot I put you in. Um, so I'm going to take this to a very personal level. So I'm hearing all of you, and I'm like so inspired and so impressed with all of you. How do you guys feel? Uh, I don't know if you've had time to reflect, considering you all seem to be so caught up with all of this. But have you ever sat back and thought, taken a deep breath, and thought on what and how you felt by doing this? I'm very curious to know, how does it make you feel? Again, please feel free, anybody, to go. We all deserve a little pat on our backs. Come on, guys.
So, I mean, I have a
First,
perspective on this. It's very easy and I've seen a lot of people in the development space feel this. It's very easy to feel this. What do I say? This feeling of kind of being on a higher horse than everyone who doesn't work in development. There's a lot of people who feel that in development space, that I'm the kind of person helping society, right? Or making people's lives better, tackling the real challenges facing our world, be it the human world or the natural world. It's very easy to feel that. And I admit that when I first started looking at development, one thing was like, oh, I'm not just going to be working in business, or I'm not just going to be doing, and I have my own kind of personal issues with most journalism. It's that it's just a record. Very few journalists actually make a difference, right? Which is why I didn't want to work in that field after a point. It took me a long time to remove that from my head and just say that by doing that, you're actually removing respect from the people you're trying to help. You are looking down on them, essentially, when you say that I'm coming in to help you. The best way that I've seen is that I am just helping people help themselves. Is the only way I keep myself from, getting onto that high horse and being like, yes, I work in the development sector and I'm helping people, etc., etc. Just no one is any different to you. You just got lucky. You were born a certain way. You were born in a certain place. Um, that gives you, if someone doesn't have the privileges that you have, because even assuming that they're not happy with their lives, right, is something that you need to be careful of, right? Our idea of development, or the Western idea of development, may not necessarily be everyone's idea of development. It takes away as much as it gives at times, right? Just really understand who you're trying to help, understand what they want for themselves, help them help themselves to get that.
So true.
Yeah, that's my perspective on it. I'm still struggling at times not to feel like I work in the development sector. I'm cool. At times
Anybody
it's hard to
else?
kind of.
Sorry, Kaustubh, we're running short of time, so I'm going to be a little
I'd like
stick
to
on that. Yes, please, Ananya.
I think what I have always struggled with is this ability to not be able to see what is enough and how much you can do and how much one should do. So there's always this battle of I should take on more and I should sign up for more projects and try to cater to as many issues as possible all in one go. And nothing feels enough per se. So I think that's something I struggle with. It's also demotivating because I don't mean to do this for the school kids here, but development sector doesn't pay as fancily as any other sector in the world. So sometimes there are pangs of jealousy. There are moments where I'm like, I should have just done a corporate job. I would have been so oblivious and apathetic, but okay, And those are the thoughts that keep coming. But I think um, to answer your question, I think when you help one person or when you give aid to one child, I think that little bit of a glow kind of helps you keep going. And that's what I kind of hold on to. It's like my ray of hope on the dark days, and I hold on to it as much as possible. It's very difficult, so it also helps to have a fantastic support system that is critically aware of what you're trying to do and doesn't shame you for your efforts, doesn't belittle efforts, and is aware of how different it is essentially to do this kind of work. So I think that's equally important.
Wow, that's great. Uh, Anyone else?
Yeah, I just like to add to that. I mean, it does feel phenomenal to help people, and
I'm so glad somebody's being so honest.
yeah,
I'm not saying the others were not honest, but yeah, you need to feel good about yourselves.
yes, it actually feels really great because when you can see, you can tangibly observe the impact you're making. It I mean, when you see somebody else smile, it makes you so happy on the inside. And with the question that I think Ananya she raised before me, she said that there's that question of when have you done enough. I think in the social service sector, you've always and never done enough. So whenever you've contributed a certain amount, it's at least something more than nothing. And when you see the path ahead of you, there's always something that you're still yet to do. So I think that's the beauty. You've always and never done enough for people.
So I'm going to move on to another question from Kriti, and actually it's come from the audience. I'm loving my audience today. What will make you stop doing your kind deeds? Will anything stop you? I mean, it's open to everybody, not just to Kriti. It's open. I mean, Ananya did say one thing which could make you stop doing it. Uh, but apart from that, do you think anything is there that could make you stop?
So for me, I think so it's not my full-time job or a
Correct. Yeah.
profession that I'm following. So for me, I feel there there are not really any factors that I will always continue to do something to change, to make a difference in whichever way, in whichever capacity I can. So of course, like if maybe if it was like a full-time position, it wasn't paying me well in long term, definitely I would consider different options. But again, that wouldn't make me stop doing good or giving back to the society in any way. I would still keep doing it. So I think it's just you how much like it's just it's a hunger, it's a constant hunger. Like once you've done one thing, you just like I'm already now think like my kids are going to move to grade 7 now. I'm already thinking that okay, I want to start a bigger project, my own project. So it's just a constant hunger, like you just want to help. Like it does feel like it's satisfactory. It you have better sleeps. So of course, yeah, I guess never
It's
for
your high.
me. Yeah, yeah, you
Can I
could say
call
that.
it your high?
Yes, definitely.
I know personally for me, it's always been a high. I mean, I know I've been asked many times that how do you do this work? And I'm like, it just, it's just me. Of course, it's personal, it's there. But for me, yeah, it's the high, as Molly is saying. And I've just put words into her mouth.
But I
Anybody
completely
else?
agree.
Um, yeah.
Tanushree.
So what might say might come off as a bit selfish, but the reason I got into doing good work is because a few months ago I wasn't in a very good space. And so I just asked my mom, like, what do I do to get happiness? What makes me happy? And she just answered me by saying making others happy makes you happy. And I feel like that's the main reason why I started helping others, to make myself happy. And it made me realize what I do doesn't only impact them, it impacts me also so much. So I feel like maybe if I've really achieved that happiness, or if I've really like I'm really happy with myself, I won't stop doing kind deeds, but I think you understand. I would just,
No, and it's
yeah.
completely great to be selfish about this. I would say for this one thing, I would say please be as selfish as you can, because yes, it's that selfishness is needed. If it's making you happy and by that one can go ahead and do make a change in somebody else's life, why not?
Could I just say
I
something
don't
to
see
that?
anything wrong with that. Yes,
Right,
please,
absolutely,
Kriti.
absolutely. And I mean, as long as it comes from here, you
Yeah,
can serve for, your entire lifetime. And but sometimes it may not make you happy. I feel like sometimes we have
true.
very, very challenging times. So I'm teaching this child, as I
I,
as I told you,
I
like,
agree.
child that I teach who's facing some problems, and often teaching him has not been easy. So when we'd be on call, he would just sigh or indirectly tell me that he doesn't want to study, or that he's finding it boring, or that he wants to talk. We have these little breaks that we have where we informally talk and we don't study. So he'd keep indicating that he's not enjoying my actual job. He's not enjoying studying. So it's often very demotivating. But then it's important for us to keep in mind the bigger picture and the larger cause that we're really working for. So even if you're not enjoying it at certain times, keeping in mind that there's a greater goal is extremely important before we stop doing kind deeds.
So I can see nothing's going to stop this, Lauren. I'm so happy about that. Good. So, guys, we're almost at the end of it. Anything you guys want to say to us at 8Bs? Because, pretty much I feel I'm so privileged to have all of you. I mean, I did not seek you out like that he's doing this, she's doing this. I reached out to people who I knew were doing good work. But pretty much, I think, you guys have said what we're trying to say about kindness is contagious, kindness brings happiness, and one should not think that anything is small. And that's what we talk about, that no matter what you do, and I always say what Kriti and Tanushri both, that sitting in a cafe with a cup of coffee, if I today feel that I don't want to have that coffee, and that coffee money, can I donate it somewhere? Can I make somebody happy with that coffee money? I should have a place to do it, or somewhere where I can give it. And that's pretty much what we are striving to, that have people just stop for a minute and think, can I make a difference? No matter how big or small. I mean, I'm not stopping people from doing big things in life, but I'm trying to encourage. And when I say I mean 8Bs is trying to encourage people to look at smaller things. Let's not start with larger things. And as Costa, whatever, I think it was Costa was saying, what should we do? And I would stay with that start with small. And also that is something, again, as Aryan said, strategy. What teaches us, how do I solve a problem? And I know in education, that's one of the biggest things that we've learned is break your task into smaller things. And I think that's where 8Bs plugs in, that let's start this big thing which we may have in our minds into smaller goals, and which may mean doing small tasks in any manner, whichever manner you may want to do. But I'm very curious to know, now that you guys know 8Bs, uh, what do you think we can do, and how do you think we can pitch in with your work and with other work? Anybody?
Um, I would just like to repeat what I said earlier. Again, there's no
Please.
formula to do this. It's just collaboration leads to something which ultimately changes things. And you really don't know what's the end product going to be. But what we really can do is collaborate simply. And when similar minds, as they say, come together, so great things like ultimately do happen. So again, yeah, that's my take on this. Very simple. And yep.
Thanks, Aryan. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
completely
you.
agree with that. So every single project or every initiative has their own way in which, collaboration is possible, in which there's scope for people. So maybe some initiative requires more awareness, some require certain kinds of resources. So individually collaborating with everybody, like from Mitti to Matka, we require people to be more aware of the problems of how important potters are for Indian heritage, and how they're sort of getting it's getting blurred out of what we really stand for, as earthen pots are so important, right since the medieval ages, or since so many centuries in India, and how people are forgetting that. So maybe increasing awareness among people, and spreading the message, if we could maybe collaborate, so we buy their pots in bulk and sell them for marginally higher prices or something, so that we can gather more money for them. Just innovative ways in which we can all help in our own way. And I'd just like to say 8Bs is it's absolutely amazing to see what 8Bs is striving, is planning to do. And thank you so much for having me as a part of this event today. And it's amazing to see what everybody's been doing. So I just like to wish everybody the best for their own project.
Thank you, Kriti. Anybody else? Sorry, I seem to be facing some problems. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me, but anybody else want to say anything?
I think I'd, instead of saying something that 8Bs could do, I actually just want to ask you specifically, what's the key thing on the horizon right now for 8Bs, right? And just maybe after you just bring that up, I can pitch in on something there.
Kaustav, right now we would like more and more people to start sharing what they do. As we started off, and some of you did put in so beautifully, that the more you share, the more you inspire. And that is what we are trying to really, that's our main agenda. That's, let's share our work. Nothing is small, nothing is big. It all goes together. So for us right now, that's, I think, literally going to be our goal for the next year, to get people to share more and more. The more people share, and that's why I keep hounding all of you that please share your work, please do discuss it with us, put it up there so that other people do get inspired. We do feel others get inspired, and that kindness cycle keeps going. And once that gets into rolling, I think a lot of people can benefit from that.
I think the only thing I would say there on the sharing aspect is what I was talking about in the beginning about how nothing is too small, right? And if 8Bs can really help in breaking that barrier that people have about scale and numbers, right? That something isn't worth sharing because it wasn't dramatic, or you didn't get a news coverage for it, or you didn't touch X number of beneficiaries.
Correct, totally.
If 8Bs can break that mental barrier that people
It's
have,
not only about getting Kaustav, it's not only about getting noticed. It's about, people have an inherent uh, uh, inherent this thing of not, I mean, we all do good work, we all do at some point in our lives, we do work, I mean, we do help people, we do, but we don't talk about it.
yeah,
It is so difficult for, and including me, I'm going to give you my personal example. Believe me, I would be the last person to go talking tom, as we may call it at times, tom-tomming about ourselves. We don't want to do it. And yet we're doing so much good work on a daily basis. I mean, look at all of you out here. I don't know how many of your close friends or close relatives or the people around in your neighborhood know of the kind of work you guys are doing. I know a lot of people don't know what I'm doing or doing on a daily basis. I counsel a lot of women in interreligion marriages, and people in that group know about it, but I don't go talking about it to people. So the other day, I wanted to put up a post on aidbees, and it really took me time to type those 5 lines because, it's that hesitation. Do I really want to talk about it? Should I talk about it? What is somebody going to say about it? I mean, all of these thoughts go in your mind. We want to inspire people to put those thoughts aside and just go ahead and write that down so that 10 other people can get inspired by that.
Absolutely. And when we see other people and the kind deeds that other people are doing, we ourselves get more inspired and, motivated to work even harder. So when we're aware and when we can observe the kind of good that exists in the world, it's really encouraging for those people
Yeah.
who would like to begin, would like to continue on their ventures.
No, correct. Totally. I mean, that's our 8Bs is completely based on that. It's about sharing. It's about whatever you do, let's put it out there. Let's share it. And I'm going to encourage all of you to share. I mean, I would love to have all your little stories, what you spoke, be on your pages on 8Bs.
Also
That's
about
our aim.
I feel like a very big part of aidbees is that it doesn't matter how much you donate, because like when I started I was just asking people to donate like 25 rupees or 50 rupees, but if they donate 3,000 or 5,000, doesn't matter. They're all helping, and they're all getting to the same conclusion. So
Yeah, totally. Doesn't matter how big or small, as long as we do it.
I think
Um,
the struggle, sorry.
no,
No,
you can go
please go
on.
ahead.
All right. Thank you. So I think there's like Zaman mentioned, that there's a real struggle with people talking about their work, the kind of things that they're doing at a personal level. So I think the only way we can encourage that, maybe not the only way, but one of the ways that we can encourage that is if if we promote that, okay, you can call, people can collaborate and make your project reach out to many more people. That's one way where people will actually come out and step out and start talking about the kind of work that they do at personal level.
Yeah, true. Very true. Okay, I would love to continue if you guys want to continue, but officially we are at the end of our talk. So we're almost 12 minutes over our time. But if any one of you has anything more to contribute, say, suggest, please do that. Um, Anybody? Hello?
No, I
Hello?
think everything's said from my side.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I can't see anybody. My screen's completely blank. I don't know why. So I'm not able to see anybody, but so I'm just literally talking to a blank screen now. But I know the team has all of you covered, I hope, including me on their screen. So I'm going to, then shall I end the conversation now? Anybody wants a last thing to say to end with?
Sorry, your
I
voice is
guess
actually
not. Okay.
breaking.
Guys, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I think some issue now. So I'm going to say a great, big thank you to all of you for participating, for all of you sharing your great work. And guys, really, we all deserve a pat on our back. I mean, I understand when Kostov said feeling that one up there. it's okay to feel that. Sometimes you do need that, but the thing is how you handle it. And I think all of you are handling it beautifully. Uh, but all I'll have to say is we all need to keep doing this, and we all need to keep sharing it. With that, we're going to come to an end. Thank you so much, all of you. And please keep the good work going. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye
Thank you so
bye.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone. Great hearing
Bye.
about your work.
Same here. Bye bye.